Hey everyone, RogueGold here, welcome back to the Division 2. And today, the exotic we've all been waiting for is nearly here. The new Tinkerer mask releases next week, serving as the spiritual successor of the beloved Alpha Bridge gear set from back in the Division 1. Now, the anticipation for this item from the community is not just birthed from nostalgia, but also because the numbers the people have ran on this thing have concluded that this is set to become one of the strongest new exotics for DPS builds in the endgame. It's also just a very unique exotic in how much creativity it's set to unleash. There's going to be a lot of new options in build crafting for casual and hardcore players alike. So, come next week, the interest in grabbing one of these is going to skyrocket. And in this video, before the madness begins, I wanted to offer you all a very quick recap and rundown on what the item does, how it will be unlocked, and what you can do to prepare to hopefully grab it day one. Hopefully that all sounds good. We'll get right to it. If you don't want to miss out on any of my coverage next week for the Tinkerer, including a guide to the master difficulty of the climax mission, builds, all that stuff, then be sure to subscribe. And then additionally, as we jump in, as always, major shout out and thank you to our channel members. I wouldn't be here without you, so thank you so much for your support. But without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so let's start with what is probably the most important question that people are going to want to know. What makes this Tinkerer exotic so special? What does it do? Well, firstly, it is going to come with a triple red roll, so the weapon image, crit chance, crit damage distribution. Its talent, though, is where things get really spicy. It's called Abridged, and it says, if your primary and secondary weapon are not exotic or named and of the same type, the secondary weapon's talent will also be applied to the primary weapon. There are two additional conditions for that listed below here. It says does not apply to talents that include weapon swapping, and it doesn't apply if the primary and secondary weapon have the same talent. Now, I know at first glance that might seem kind of restrictive. You're like, I can't use exotics, named items, weapon swap talents, what's going on here? Once you look past that though, that is when the sheer number of possibilities begin to open up. I mean, just think about the combinations. You want to combine killer and fast hands, extra damage plus snappy reloads on high crit builds? You can do it. You want to mix eyeless and sadist to buff your damage regardless of which status effect you're inflicting from the trauma chess piece talent? Done. Like, truly, the possible combinations here are endless, and that promise of what people might come up with in their theory crafting is always super fun to see in the Division. Now, as I mentioned, this was tested back on this season's test server. It's been proofed since then in spreadsheets. By going in and mixing some of the already existing best weapon talent options is going to result in some major DPS output. Bottom line is, this thing is going to be good. So let's then move on to tackle the next very important question of, okay, how will I actually get the Tinkerer when it unlocks next week? Well, if you've participated in either of the most recent seasons of the Division 2 after Seasons 2.0 was implemented, this is going to work the exact same as the Provocator and Birdie's Quick Fix Pack exotics, meaning that this new Tinkerer mask is going to be exclusively tied to the season climax, aka the season finale mission. First, it's important to talk about how we'll actually go about accessing the mission, as there has been one major change made compared to the past seasons. So whereas before, the only way to unlock the climax mission was to complete every single manhunt scout activity of that corresponding season, that would usually range somewhere between like 11 and 16 individual scouts. This season saw the introduction of the scout HVTs, or high value targets. So when you're looking at the scout screen, which can be accessed in your map on the manhunt tab, the little slider at the top that they've added in shows you the total range of scout activities, but you'll notice that two of these are marked as little boxes as opposed to the circles. Those two scouts in particular are HVTs. These represent the weeks 8 and 12 objectives. If you tab over to them, you'll also see that it says high value target. And so what the devs have done here is made it so that these are the only two scout objectives that are required for completion in order for you to unlock the climax mission when it drops. And that is set for next Tuesday, August 12th. Now, of course, you can still do all of the rest of the scouts if you'd like for pretty solid rewards. They're also the only source of the associated lore drops while the season is still active. But if your only goal is to play the climax mission and get the Tinkerer, then you only need to worry about those two high-value target scouts. Alright, so we covered accessing the mission, but once you unlock it, what then? Now, like I mentioned before, this works exactly the same as the Birdie's Pack exotic last season, the Provocator before it. The Tinkerer is going to have a chance-based drop from the end of the climax mission, and that chance will increase the higher difficulty that you play on. So if you want to go and farm the climax mission on normal, you can do it. You'll have a chance to get it, but that chance will be better if you play on hard, even better on challenging, etc. Now, just like the last seasons, there is one important stipulation to this rule, and that is that if you choose to tackle the climax mission on master difficulty, which is a difficulty that is exclusive to these types of missions, then your first completion of the mission on that difficulty will award you a guaranteed copy of the Tinkerer. Now, I know Master is not for everybody, but if you can handle it, then it is your best shot at a day one pickup for this new exotic. So, in case you're thinking you might want to attempt that challenge of Master and you're wondering what kind of build might be able to support you in that, I've got you covered. Let's take a look at that next. So, as far as builds, in a video like this, I might normally suggest 2 or 3 different options of builds just for different playstyles, things that work differently in team compositions. But if I'm being completely honest with you, there is really only one singular build that you need this season. Throughout the course of the season, I've been running legendary missions with 4 people. Everybody is rocking the exact same build, and we're mowing down anything that is in our way. So if you have not, I highly recommend trying this thing out. The only important note is that it does require playing with and using the current seasonal hardcore modifiers. I know that some people don't love them, but you are going to need them for this. In case you have not really interacted with these things and you want a quick breakdown on how those work, I will leave a link down in the description to the video I did breaking that down at the beginning of the season. But I promise you, if you want that easy master clear, this build and the modifiers that back it up are going to do a ton of the heavy lifting. So here is the build. Now, just like I was saying with the modifiers, I've also done a full dedicated breakdown for this build specifically. I will link it down below in case you want a more in-depth look. But going over some of the key components, the star of the show here is the Backfire SMG. This excels from the extra crit chance that is available this season through the modifiers. And as far as the build backing it up, we have 4 pieces of Striker, the Memento Exotic Backpack, and 1 piece of the Y'all brand with Intimidate for our chest piece talent. All 6 of these pieces are rolled for armor. You will make up for the damage though, trust me. But what this setup is designed to do is counteract much of the Backfire's bleed, and it ensures that you're going to be able to tank a lot of these spiky damage numbers that the master difficulty NPCs will be throwing out. So the build sets up the baseline, but the modifiers are really what do the rest of the work for you. Taking a look at the active modifier, the Assault Link is what has you covered for damage. While it's active, it's going to pump up your crit chance close to 100% to really maximize the Backfire's talent that gives you a ton of crit damage. Looking at the passives here, Loaded Up gives you even more crit damage, so be sure to have this. Now, Safety First here is a must. This gives you a ton of free hazard protection, which we need in order to mitigate the Backfire talent's negative attributes. So this one is just a really great investment because you don't need to then run hazard on your build. You can get a ton of it from right here, and all you're sacrificing is 1 passive mod slot. Finally, extra padding down here can grant you up to 60% protection from elites when it is at maximum effectiveness. And if you've played master difficulty before, or you've seen footage of it from prior seasons, there tend to be a ton of elites within this style of content, so this passive mod is a godsend. One more time, I will highly recommend that you check out the dedicated build video for greater detail and explanation on all of these pieces, but this build, or some variation of it, has been the MVP of this entire season, and I guarantee that it will let you walk into Master ready to put some enemies down. Alright, and then finally, I just wanted to answer the quick question of are there any other preparations that I can do right now for the arrival of the Tinkerer, and all I really wanted to shout out here is to be sure you're ready to get the most out of this pretty experimentative exotic, right? This exotic doesn't just grant you a flat bonus, it encourages you to mix and match talents, try and be creative to find out which work best together. And so, if perhaps your selection of talents is pretty lacking within your recalibration library, then go and farm some of them and put them in here. Similarly, if you're in need of some additional weapons, recall that you'll need to use 2 within the same class to activate the Tinkerer's talent. Go and farm them. The countdown game mode is going to be the best option for both of those things. Just be sure to set your targeted loot accordingly to whatever you may be after. And then finally, just make sure that your resource pool is stocked for all of the recalibration you may be doing while tinkering with these builds. Pun intended. These days, there's like a million different ways to go out and farm resources. You could do open world loops. You could farm SHD levels to redeem the scavenging points from the watch. You could do priority objectives, which award you with these huge bundles. The overall point is don't go through the effort of unlocking unlocking the Tinkerer just to realize that you need to go and farm more stuff to do what you want to do with it. You've got a week to go until it gets here, so prepare now. My friends, that is just about going to do it for this quick recap and breakdown on the fast approaching Tinkerer exotic. Yeah, I really just wanted to throw together a quick prep guide for any who may have needed it. The Tinkerer craze is about to be real across the community, both in PvE and PvP content, so I hope this guide helped. I hope you're excited. Any thoughts, questions, whatever you might have after watching this, as always, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. I'll do my very best to clear things up, but that is just about going to do it for me today. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. RogueGold. Out.